Bells are there. Microphones are on. Sound is up. Guests are in the place. Well, not guests, but co-hosts are there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TruthWire. It's truth time. I am one of your hosts, Craig Pasta Jardul. And of course, with me is the one and only guy from the homeless left. The guy who's the producer of that beautiful Venezuelan film, Chupa Madre, made not how long ago. Matt Weinglass is in the house. How you doing there, Matt?
Great. Good to be here with you again, Pasta. Yeah, I feel like we're still getting that week started, even though it's technically Wednesday. That's hump day, but that doesn't feel like it yet. We're still trying to process all the crazy happening since over the weekend. So,
you know, for my own personal joy, and I explained to Matt Weinglass today, I said, Matt, can you come on with me for an hour tomorrow? I have a Mark Sleboda interview I want to play, but I figured let's just do like a This Week in Politics. Let's kind of get everybody caught up. Let's just have a little one-on-one because we never get a chance. Jayme, what the hell is going on with you? CheeseSlice on the ones and two decided to play DJ right in the middle of a statement. Love you, Jayme. We never get a chance to say everything we want to say. Or we said, man, I wish I would have said that after. You know, you have a long, extensive show, so you do get a lot out. But there's always seems to be those little nuggets that are missed. And I asked Matt, hey, let's go over like a normal thing I've been doing for years. President is going to the World Economic Forum. He's having a press conference before he goes. It's like a year anniversary. He's going to tell us about his accomplishments. You think that, you know, our country would have like a humbled president and say, hey, you know, we've done some things, but we got to do more. No, we've done great things, amazing things. And I listened to about the first 15, 20 minutes of the press conference, and I just shut it off. I said, I can't do this. I mean, Donald Trump has kind of, maybe he was always there, but now for me, it's clear as day, Matt. He is your drunk uncle on Thanksgiving that can't help but be racist and says he's not. I'm not racist, but, you know, brown people in this country are causing all the problems, you know, that talks at a sixth grade level. That is what our president is. It's almost nauseating. I used to dream about being in that press conference room, right? The White House press corps, be part of that there, listen to a press conference, have some questions. I mean, it is just, I used to feel bad for Joe Biden when he was up there because he was just so, I mean, this guy's old, decrepit. He's got no marbles and they're throwing him up here. Donald Trump, I just want to punch in the face. I haven't seen a more narcissistic sociopath with the highest form of puffery and just blows so much sunshine up his own ass. Now, I don't know if that's the social engineers that are telling him to do that. Just give them their confirmation bias. Just give the people the confirmation bias. But anybody following this guy at this point right now has surely lost the plot. And we're going to talk about some reasons why, the main reason why Donald Trump should go. And I have to blow my nose. So, Matt, please give a statement while I put my camera down.
I mean, this is the WWE theater we've been talking about on all our shows this whole way, on Homeless Left, on TruthWire, Pasta to Go. We're seeing this in real time every day. Something new happening. This guy being put out there. What we have is this character that has been remodeled. It's like the latest version. It's the 2016 Trump times 1,000, but it's like the T1000 or whatever you want to say. It's the newest model of the Terminator. And you know, it's not like we weren't prepared for this. We lived through 4 years of Joe Biden when we realized that these are literally puppets that you put out there on the stage. We've lost all humanity in these people. This is so if you can parade around a guy with zero ability, cognitive skills for 4 years and pass it off as a stutter to his base, this makes total sense. You can pass this guy off as a guy that's challenging the deep state and sticking it to all of our enemies around the world and just America's first, America's strong. But it's a WWE theater. This is the character. He's been remastered, if you will, this second term. And they let him loose. They let him out of the cage, and he's doing exactly what he was intended to do. We can see it from where our vantage point is, but it's, again, the MAGAs are just as twisted about this, and they're seeing it through their lens of tribalism, the same way the Biden people saw Biden as, he just has a stutter. What's wrong with you people? Why are you, let him do his thing. Let him president. You know, but it's the same, the lens of tribalism that keeps us in our places and allows them to get away with this puppeteering every 4 years.
Main thesis of your song, or your show, your song. We need to get you a song, the Homeless Left song. The main thesis of your show is we can all be homeless together, right? That we understood, we were part of that Democratic Party. We understood we were leftists, but now we're completely homeless because there's nobody who represents us. And I think it's very telling, too. You want to talk about one of the clips you played yesterday with those agents in Florida, the new DeSantis laws over here, right, that are just censoring on the behalf of Israel when they're going to somebody's house and are actually questioning them about social media posts. It's like, holy cow. These are the things that no matter what, and I apologize to anybody out there if I thought for 1 second or I displayed or even kind of insinuated that Trump could have been an outsider. I hoped he would, just the same way I hope Obama was an outsider, but they're not. They're insiders. And the things that were supposed to be so much more safeguarded, the things that were supposed to be, okay, we're going to get this at least, in addition to the Ukraine war, right, which was going to be ended in 24 hours. And I think a lot of us thought that he was definitely going to end that war, and it's still going on to this day. And even in his language, Putin and Zelensky, they don't like each other, Matt. I mean, the way he's talking, it's not the rhetoric we want to hear. You're the commander-in-chief. The United States started that war as a proxy war. I'm going to pull the plug. That's it. It's over. We're done. We're going home. But he's not doing that. He's still playing into the game. So we didn't get that. But another thing that we thought we were going to get for sure with Donald Trump was less spying from the security state, less infringement on our civil liberties, whatnot. We always were scared that the contracts with Israel and a lot of their Pegasus software that Donald Trump used, that even the Biden administration said we can't, his FBI said we can't even use this. This is like spying on your U.S. citizens in broad daylight. We can't do this. Donald Trump brought it back. There were concerns, but with ICE, how he's used ICE and he's used your feelings, Trump people, MAGA people who are still like this, your hardcore xenophobic feelings that you want to blame everything on immigration. Well, he's used that to increase the powers of the security state and to increase the track and trace systems and the geo-fencing systems, all in all, by using ICE. And this should be game over, Matt, right? This should be the last straw. We're done now. You're freaking marking up territory by using ICE and geo-mapping, and you have to do it to American citizens too? We told you before, Matt, and please elaborate on this. It was never about the immigrant. It was about using the immigrant to get to you, Matt Weinglass.
Well, yeah, and obviously, we've been shouting about this for months. I mean, ever before you had the Minnesota, stuff unfold with the murder of Renee Good, and it seems that at every turn you have these champions of MAGA, champions of we got to stop immigration. This is the main thing: is getting these illegals out, getting these criminals out. They have no idea that the plan that's been initiated is the exact opposite of that. If you want to take care of immigration, if you want to stop, what is the big problem? Is it we have criminals here that shouldn't be here? We have people who have jobs that shouldn't have them. If you really wanted to solve that, you go to the companies, you go to the corporations, you pin it to the CEOs who did the hiring, and you make them accountable. That'd be very easy to do. But Trump actually told us something. And I don't know where I could find this clip again, but we played that. This was a few months back. This was during the initial ICE raids that happened. We were covering the riots that happened here in LA at the time. It was they were going to all the Home Depots, and they were just arresting a bunch of people. People were fighting back, and we knew at that point that Palantir was involved. I know we're going to get into that part here, but Trump said something very telling back then. After about a week or 2 weeks of craziness, he said, we gotta back down a little bit because we don't want to disrupt the service industry. We don't want to disrupt the hotels. We don't want to disrupt the food chains. These are the things that he was saying on behalf of the CEOs, of the shareholders that own these hotels, right? Like the Hiltons and all of this, the Marriott hotels and all this stuff. So if you were paying attention, if you missed that, we're letting you know that Trump is actually protecting that class, that elite class. And so if you're protecting that elite class, you can't actually do this job. So this job it's a fake job. Anyone who still thinks that that's why the ICE agents are in Minneapolis right now, you're fooled. Because if it was about getting these people out, again, you would go to those corporations and you take care of them there. You would not go door to door, knocking in windows, harassing people in the street, not to mention, running and ramming into people's cars, busting windows. And when people say they have their IDs, can I go in my house and get my ID? No, you can't. You're getting in the van. I mean, if you guys aren't seeing this, that this is not how you solve the problem that you think is being solved, then I don't know what else to tell you, but this is not how you do that. And one more point. We talked about this yesterday, Craig, on Homeless Live. I would say this, look at the numbers. You got 1% of what you say illegal immigrants in the state of Minnesota, 1%. Yet why is there 15% of ICE agents in that area? It makes no sense. You don't need 15% of your force for 1% of the problem. So that alone should be enough for you to say, this don't look right.
Let's get into the whole Nico House video from what is it called? Help me out. What's the name of his channel?
Is it Hotspot? Yeah.
Hotspot. Oh my Lord. He's going to be mad at me for getting that. I wanted to go out there to Brazil for Carnival, but I can't do it now. Too many things going on. And had to take some time off when I lost my friend. So I'm going to have to stay here and miss Carnival again. Sorry, Mukan. Sorry, Nico. But listen, we're going to play this full screen. Take us down, Jayme. Put the whole thing up nice and big because he puts it out there. And this is something we're talking about. Now we have the information. We have the paper trail. We have the receipts. Let's go.
New leaked documents confirm that the crackdowns from ICE over the last several months have less to do with protecting borders and cracking down on immigration as much as it has to do with creating a new surveillance apparatus for the deep state. A Border Patrol officer who was so pissed at the state and conduct of ICE leaked a 15-page document, guys. And there is a covert effort to develop informants amongst immigrants in detention. Operation Benchwarmer, for example, alone spans the deployment of 2,000 intelligence assets across the country. It goes on to talk about Operation Abracadabra, which was initiated with the requirement of interviewing 100% individuals apprehended to gather intelligence and identify follow-on targets such as stash houses and individuals conducting quote-unquote illegal activity. The ultimate goal was tying every individual who crosses the border illegally to a foreign terrorist organization, trans-criminal organization, or utilizing the intelligence to develop targets. Notice the goal wasn't to determine whether or not they actually were guilty of participating in terrorist or criminal activity, just to tie them to the criminal or terrorist activity regardless. The whistleblower goes on to say that this ICE crackdown is not just about immigration, it's about gathering intelligence in support of Trump's war cartels, as well as on Antifa, on the quote-unquote radical left, and those who they believe are quote-unquote anti-American or anyone else considered to be terrorists. Guys, I'm pretty young, but I'm still old enough to remember that we were told that Soviet Union, communist Russia was the most evil country in the world and that we should hate them with all of our heart and soul because they allegedly were guilty of doing exactly what the Trump administration is doing right now. Like, this is the caricature of everything we've always been told to hate as Americans. And yet there are Trump supporters ignoring this, or worse, supporting this, saying that it's all for the greater good. Yes, spying on your neighbors is for the greater good. Having citizens, American citizens, be arrested on the streets and being told to provide documents is for the greater good. We don't have to keep worrying about what will happen if 1984 comes. 1984 is here in 2026. Trump and his administration is sending a message to everyone in the country that if you stand up to them, you are a terrorist and they can treat you however they want to if you refuse to fall in line. And anyone who truly believes that this won't come back and bite them in the ass just because you support Trump right now, you don't know your history, bro. We already know how this story ends.
There it is, Hotspot. Oh, man. Matt, do you want to get into do you want to say anything about this? This is crazy. I mean, we got so much more information to back this up. But like I said, this should be game, set, match. I still don't understand, right? This whole make America great again. I thought it was a return to the Constitution. I thought it was return to the First Amendment. I thought it was a return to due process, right? This is all about, and it's so funny because now you see all the Trump administration kind of marking down and cataloging and labeling their enemies, right? The radical left, all those people, when you look at Biden's bill with the domestic terrorism, he labeled all the other side of the people. So they're just taking turns putting us all on the grid because they're not criminals. They're just people who think differently than them. You know, I mean, and that's why this administration, just like when you have Pam Bondi, what's her name, Levitt, any of them, Stephen Miller, when you ask them an opposing question, a challenging question, they act like a 6-year-old. What are you, the radical left? I know you are, but I am not. You're just stupid. You're cool with this agenda and that. They can't even have an adult conversation at this point. And I don't understand this whole mentality where a lot of Trumpers are supporting not only their rhetoric, but this mindset that it's okay to break the law to uphold the law. That's what's called, and Matt, you'll like this because you say it all the time, not being principled.
This last year has been just filled, just endless examples of non-principled behavior. And, even when you're on the right side of things, and look, we have to also hold the left accountable as well, because they all of a sudden are on the right side, right? They're on the side of the people. But where were they? Let's go back to 2021 and the truckers convoy. They were mocking and ridiculing those people. So where can we, the principled folks, where can we exist, in what space, and how are there not more people flocking here at this point? Can we just apply it to everything? Can't we just say, let's hold people in power accountable? Let's be for our basic rights, our basic First Amendment rights. Are you effing kidding me? Like, we can't have this free speech. We can't have the right to protest. It's picky. It's always picky choosy, as long as it doesn't go against the thing I'm supposed to protect. And we're seeing the MAGAs doing that right now. These people you mentioned, these Kristi Noems and JD Vances, and I'll throw in, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and all of them, the Pam Bondis, the Stephen Millers. These are people that during the campaign ran on, what was it? Taking on the deep state. That was it, right? And they still, this adage of like, they're going to get in there and they're going to hold people in power responsible. No, it's the exact opposite. They've become the exact thing that the MAGAs were furious about during the Biden years. They were furious about this top-down bullying of the people, the tweets out from Biden that this holiday, the unvaccinated are going to be the killers and watch out. So this whole like beating down on people while protecting elites, whether it was with the Ukraine war, whether it's with COVID, whatever it was, we're going to get in there and we're going to hold them accountable. Really? You've literally become the exact thing. Every time Kristi Noem, JD Vance opens their effing mouths, what are they doing? They're blasting on people, telling them, get the F out of the way of ICE. Let them do whatever the hell they want. And if you have a problem with it, you're a terrorist. You're crazy. You need to be taken care of. You need to be made an example of. This is all the rhetoric that people came out to get Trump into office to stop this. You have become the exact thing that you were against before. And all you got to do is look in the mirror and you'll see you literally become this thing. So what do we do about this? We can keep yelling about it. We can keep shaking people, beating people over the head with it. But at some point, there has to be a breaking point, because this charade cannot go on any longer. We got to hold these people accountable. Who's going to do it? The left? They were nowhere to be found a few years ago. Now they want to. Okay, great. But when are we going to step out of the entire thing and say everyone in power needs to be held accountable? And nobody is doing that. There's a very small group of us that have been consistent the whole way.
And I think we have to point out the fact that Barack Obama deported twice as many people as Donald Trump did per day. I mean, that might change. Who knows, but he also, the Biden administration, I believe, funded ICE, gave ICE a lot of money. So when you hear a lot of these Democrats out there, let's ban ICE. I mean, I said this the other day, Matt, there's nobody out there more happier than the Democrat, the establishment itself, the establishment Democrats, because now they have something. The do nothing party has something to chirp about because all these conservatives are behind it. And I also want to find a clip, the movie The Paper. You ever see the movie The Paper with Michael Keaton?
Yes.
When he gets fired, there's a scene with him and Glenn Close. And he looks at Glenn Close, and I'm going to say this to all the Trumpers out there. Congratulations. You've now become everything you used to hate. That was the line. This is the people still supporting Donald Trump in this kind of mentality. Jason Bassler put up a tweet, and he put it plain and simple. If you could throw it up there, Jayme. ICE is now using Palantir tool to map neighborhoods and assign deportation scores in target-rich environments fed by HHS data. Today, it's the immigrants. Tomorrow, it's dissidents. If you think this won't be repurposed for activists or protesters, you aren't paying attention. I had to put that up with one of the better tweets I saw. And, you know, there's a lot of people who kind of echoed this. There's also this little video that goes a little bit more in depth about what exactly they are doing. And I thought it was really great when you went out to those protests, you know, Kings, and you started asking these people, hey, man, what do you know about Palantir? Nada, zero, zilch, zip. Play the next video, Jayme. We're going to go into that, whatnot. But, I mean, this is something, once again, we have to be prepared for. We have to be prepared for the Democrats swinging back, Handsome Newsom, the do-nothing party. You know, by the way, he's appointed just awful fucking judges right now, this dude. It's just like nepotism at its highest in California. And what happens there, it is ridiculous. And there's probably a lot more fraud going on in California than there was in Minnesota. But it doesn't make a difference because Donald Trump is also pardoning all these people who defrauded everyday workers. Like some people, millions more. And once again, there doesn't have to be any proof anymore. There could be accusations without evidence in this administration, right? He's holding up pictures the other day. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. He hasn't given the information about who these people are, what they've been convicted of, how they're arrested. And according to the DHS, I think it was their own numbers, 1/3 of the people they are arresting have not committed any crime whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? They're just grabbing people left and right. A little bit more depth here. Take a look at this video I found. This is getting a lot of play out there. And then I'm going to show you a tweet from Ryan Dawson that's got a couple million views. Something very similar to what Catherine Austin Fitz said. Go ahead and play the video over here. You're watching the TruthWire. All the links down below to help out. I'm here with Matt Weinglass from the Homeless Left. Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and twos. And I am Craig Pasta-Jardula. Let's do it.
We now have information on the app that ICE uses to determine which neighborhoods to raid. It's called Elite, and in a testimony obtained by 404 Media, it's been revealed that it looks like Google Maps with pins for all the potential deportation targets. And interestingly, the targets include confidence scores, scores that indicate how likely they are to be at a potential location. ICE agents then drive to a location that's target-rich and knock out waves of arrests. Now, Palantir is the company that is officially behind this technology. In case you didn't know, Palantir was tasked by the Trump administration to create a master database on every single person in the US, citizens and non-citizens alike. All of us officially have scores around how likely we are to be a potential threat. In the land of the free, every move, our social media behavior, and our location are all being monitored. In case you're unfamiliar with the rest of Palantir's work, they're actually the ones responsible for testing out their kill technology and perfecting it on civilians in Palestine. Their main product is an AI platform designed to identify and eliminate potential future threats. That technology is now right here at home on the streets in the US.
So I wanted to tie it to the Jason Bassler tweet because he talked about the target-rich zones. And this, once again, this was supposed to be one of the things when it came to Donald Trump that the Democrats were out-handed, right? We talked about the bill, the executive order that Biden wrote up, labeling certain people as domestic terrorists and what it would be. It was just everybody on the right, you know, who believed in certain things. And I was even like against a lot of the beliefs, the ideology, a lot of those people on the right, but they have the right to believe in them, right? So, I mean, this gives you a little bit more information about what's going on. And really quickly, throw up the tweet from Ryan Dawson. This is the one. This got almost 2 million views right now. It keeps growing every single time I look at it. They're not really after illegals. They're using illegals as an excuse to create a police state aimed at you. Take it away, Matt Weinglass.
Yeah, no, this app, we were looking at this Elite app. It's still has, they got to work out some tweaks. They're not using it accurately. That's the other thing we have to consider, that they're not even good at what they're doing right now. That Palantir's apparently targeting people that they are supposed to be busting down houses, and guess what? They're getting the wrong house. They're getting the wrong people. Do they care? Are they trying to make up for those mistakes? Are they trying to correct it? No, they're not. There's another thing that's in play as well, and that's, I think the Wall Street Journal reported that there's actually an arrest quota that has been initiated, and it's 3,000 per day. So if you think about it, you got this Palantir technology that's not necessarily even up to par of even being functional during this, which they have to get these arrests. And what do you get for the quota? You get the bonuses that you signed up for, that $50,000 sign-on bonus, student loans being paid off. So all these different sales incentives, it's like a sales job. But the victims aren't people buying things they don't need. The victims are everyday Americans who are going to be harassed at any given point in the day, and then said, hey, you know what? I'm a U.S. citizen. I got my ID. Like I said, got my ID inside. Can I grab it? No, you can't grab your ID. Why? Because I need to make my quota. It's not a conviction quota. It's not even a deportation quota. It's an arrest quota. That means anybody fits the bill. You can add a number to your total, and maybe that bonus might kick in soon. And all the while, keep a mask over your face so nobody can have any accountability for
which is
getting
illegal.
It wrong. So they have no problem getting it wrong. But that's part of this. That's why this tweet, from Ryan Dawson, is so on point, and why people are looking at this is because this was always about using it against you. That's what it always was about. So you have to create the chaos. They're counting on Palantir technology not being 100% workable right now. They're counting on these mistakes. They're counting on chaos and the people revolting against that. And you have these insane neighborhoods right now that we have no solution to, because as long as this administration pushes the fact that ICE can do whatever the hell they want, we're pretty screwed. The people are pretty screwed. We need MAGA voters to understand that they've been tricked and align with the people right now. That's what we need. This is not a partisan issue. This should be everybody should be up in arms about this, because it's as clear as day. Like what you're showing, people need to see this. It's as clear as day.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody in the chat who's participating. A lot of great conversations going on there. And thank you for the love that you're sending me personally. Hi to Anna Ringwald and to all the people who say I look healthier. Thank you so much. I do look at it as a privilege to be here with Matt, to do the work with Fee and Jayme and my crew. That was taken for granted last year. But I also just had something coming out of the gate, in the beginning of the year, where I lost one of my closest friends. It was a turbo cancer. So I've talked to Matt too as well about cranking it back up on some of the old COVID stuff and taking a look at what actually this vaccine is doing to us and whatnot. We played a video from Patch Adams. People call him Patch Adams, right? Still, I mean, do they, Matt? Do they call him Patch Adams?
I think that's a name. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, what's his real name, first name? Who died? The guy who died, who apologized, and
it's Scott Adams. Yeah,
Scott Adams. Cool. I think I heard a name they used to call him Patch Adams. Scott Adams, who
he has a few nicknames.
He does. I forgot his first name, so thank you for reminding me. But you played the video of him when he said, "Well, those people who took the vaccine, who didn't take the vaccine, it looks like you were right. I was wrong, and I'm going to have to pay for the results in 5 years." And it was like 2 years instead of 5 years. And we are seeing all these things about turbo cancers coming through and whatnot. And I got to tell you, I lost my friend very, very quickly, so I'm very suspicious. And I think we have to have those conversations. And nothing's being talked about it from the Trump administration, RFK, whatnot. In fact, they are giving new contracts to Pfizer and not holding them accountable. And I don't think they will be held accountable.
The part, there's so many things that they did wrong. And I don't want to say got wrong. They did wrong on purpose. We know this. We know it was on purpose. Every step of the way, the lockdowns, the ventilators and remdesivir. So even before the vax was put out to the public, we already have these strikes of intended. This is nefarious intent from the beginning. And so you have this administration who's not holding anybody accountable for anything, let alone the mRNA, that how much damage it's done on purpose. Why can't we even go back to and I just mentioned two things. I just mentioned the ventilators and the remdesivir. If we understand that they knew that was killing people, they knew that was wrong. Scott Adams, you brought up, they gave him a brand new drug that seemed like that was intentionally given to him at the wrong time, therefore having the opposite effect. You're increasing the spike protein that's in your body from the vax injury. They didn't consider that. So again, this is not them making mistakes and correcting it. This is them doing this on purpose. So if this administration is not holding anybody accountable right now, even just for those things before the vax came out, even for saying, why would you put people on ventilators? Oh, for all those bonuses? Why would you give people a drug, remdesivir, that had such an insanely worse outcome than not giving it to them at all? You knew you were doing that. You saw the results and you kept doing it. People should be in jail for that. If people aren't going to jail for that, we know that the people in charge right now do not have our best interests in mind. And we have to keep shouting about this because it's going to happen again. There's going to be the next thing. Well, hey, everybody, line up for the next drug. We got this fast-paced drug. It's fast-tracked, Operation Warp Speed 2. And we're all going to go along with it because nobody held people accountable for the last round of nefarious actions.
Yeah. We could have played videos of ICE agents breaking the law consistently. One of the questions I had for my guest yesterday, I had some amazing questions. And by the way, 2 weeks ago, I asked my panel of people, is Trump a nationalist or a globalist? And he's working for the globalist. There's no doubt about that. That's what Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski said. So did my other guest. And that's who you guys have put there. You never hear Donald Trump talk about the deep state. In fact, he enriches the deep state now. He lifts them up. We could have played videos of Trump's ICE force acting like assholes everywhere. We obviously know the killing of the woman in Minnesota, Renee. Yeah. Thank you. And you know, you can watch that video a million times. You're not allowed to use deadly force when somebody's trying to flee the scene. It was terrible. His gun should have been taken right away. He should have been put on the sideline, and an investigation has been opened up. But they're just protecting him because it was a radical left agitator, you know, like, and if you don't like the First Amendment, then go live in another fucking country, assholes. We could have played all these videos of these ICE agents acting like fools and assholes and spitting and pissing and shitting all over our Constitution. But instead, we brought this other video Matt had pointed out to me. I said, what? Let's go. Let's take it up a notch. What about your precious police force, Trumpers? What if they're being screwed with on a regular basis? Let's get to the next video. Take a look at this.
Good. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Ruley, Police Chief of the City of Brooklyn Park. Behind me is a bunch of amazing police chiefs that are here in support of a very short but very important message that we want to share with you. What you won't hear from any of us today is rhetoric of abolish ICE or that there shouldn't be immigration enforcement. The truth is, immigration enforcement is necessary for our national security and for local security. But how it's done is extremely important. In fact, we have a long history of working exceptionally well with our federal partners, including ICE agents, and we have seen the best of them perform their job extremely well in the past. With that said, recently, as the last 2 weeks, we, as law enforcement community, have been receiving endless complaints about civil rights violations in our streets from U.S. citizens. What we're hearing is they're being stopped in traffic stops or on the street with no cause and being forced to demand paperwork to determine if they are here legally. As this went on over the past 2 weeks, we started hearing from our police officers the same complaints as they fell victim to this while off duty. Every one of these individuals is a person of color who has had this happen to them. In Brooklyn Park, one particular officer that shared her story with me was stopped as she passed ICE going down the roadway. When they boxed her in, they demanded her paperwork, of which she's a U.S. citizen and clearly would not have any paperwork. When she became concerned about the rhetoric and the way she was being treated, she pulled out her phone. In an attempt to record the incident, the phone was knocked out of her hands, prevented her from recording it. The officer had their guns drawn during this interaction. And after the officer became so concerned, they were forced to identify themselves as a Brooklyn Park police officer in hopes of slowing the incident and de-escalating the incident down. The agents then immediately left after hearing this, making no other comments, no other apologies, just got in their vehicles and left. I wish I could tell you that this was an isolated incident. In fact, many of the chiefs standing behind me have similar incidents with their off-duty officers. This isn't just important because it happened to off-duty police officers, but what it did do is we know that our officers know what the Constitution is, they know what right and wrong is, and they know when people are being targeted, and that's what they were. If it is happening to our officers, It pains me to think of how many of our community members are falling victim to this every day. It has to stop.
I mean, that's just holy cow. Where you at, Trumpers, on that one, right?
That's huge. And you know what? We knew this was going to happen. It was a matter of mathematics and time. At some point, it's going to come after people in power. And like he said, he had to say that at the end, right? He had to say, it's not, the concern isn't that it's just happening to police officers. We're using this as a gauge that if our own department is reporting this over and over and over again, imagine how many people that don't have badges and guns this is happening to, who those ICE agents aren't driving away once they realize you're somebody important, somebody with power and status, and they just left. So this one female officer, they just leave. They don't say sorry, they just leave. Imagine all the people that they don't leave because they're dealing with actual citizens that don't have that power. That's what he's saying here. And like you're asking, I don't know how does the administration respond to this? Do they pretend this didn't happen? Because they've been yelling and barking at anybody with a problem is a radical lefty nut job. That's what they're saying. You're paid off. That was the other thing. So you guys know that manipulation is when, as soon as you see somebody push back, they must be paid, because nobody would just on their own have a problem with this. You must be a radical lefty nut job or a paid to have a problem. But who would have a problem with these? No, it's eventually this was going to happen. It was going to hit people like police. And I'm glad he put the statement out. And it was very well crafted, because he led in with we aren't saying abolish ICE, but we're saying we want safeguards. And that's what this administration refuses to have, is any safeguards whatsoever.
By the way, this is not communism for the dude who put America communism. No, this is not communism. This is authoritarianism. It's completely different. So please get it right. We have to stop saying that, because they're using it's communism to stop any type of pro-labor movement. That's why that's there. They want to make sure the corporations are still in charge. So please, it's not communism. No. President Shit for Brains went to the World Economic Forum. I don't know. I thought he was going to stop going to these things, right? You know, I mean, they go there, Howard Lutnick and them, and like, oh, we're all about nationalists. We're all about taking care of the American worker. We're doing so well. We've redone everything from the bad, poor, crazy Biden administration. America's back and it's booming, when really there's no change out there. There's no systemic change. You know, we still can't buy houses. Now we get 50-year mortgages, right? That's nice. Debt slaves forever. So, I mean, it's just nuts. But let's play a little bit of the two clips I grabbed from President Dick for Brains, because there's a couple things he said. I mean, there's so many things. You can build. I mean, what comes out of this dude's mouth is just abhorring at this point. Let's take a look at the first clip over here, too, as well. At the World Economic Forum. Lindell TV, by the way.
It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did.
All right. They went crazy with that.
News, but it should be.
It's not breaking news. People are going to be prosecuted. What are you going to do? What about all the Republicans that cheated as well? Are you going to go back and you're going to go after the people for the George W. Bush's elections, the 2 elections he sold? This, once again, is the problem. They keep pointing the finger like it's the other side cheating, rather than go, let's fix the system itself. Nobody wants to fix the system because they're all a part of it, Matt. And he's going out there once again. And now his main top dog on this is Tulsi Gabbard, who's coming up with all this crap too as well, you know, which I do believe it was an illegitimate election. But I do believe that Donald Trump was in on the whole thing. I would think it was part of the whole Kabuki theater script, because that's why we got this Donald Trump right now, because he can use the fact that it was stolen from him. He can blame everything, and he can have a iron fist because people will back him because he was cheated. And that's what's going on right now over here with this.
Yeah, I'm starting to think he was in on the whole thing the whole time. Absolutely. Yeah. And we talked about that assassination attempt that with the ear gate. And you see the footage that depicts the whole like he set up for the photo setup, right? The photo op, bring down the flag, and get that fist in the air just right. I mean, it seems that every single moment has been crafted the entire way. I'm still on the fence whether the first term, whether he was supposed to get in the first time, but best case scenario, he defied all odds and got in the first time, and then they started working on him, and they started doing stuff that that you could see that Trump that ran on. Do you remember? We got to remember Trump, the original Trump, ran on that he actually was stopping the regime change wars, stopping our just
nation building,
imperialist, just nefarious actions all over the world. He called out Bush and Cheney. He said, "We're never again on this." And so you saw this character in the first round with somebody who seemed like he wasn't in sync with them fully. There was like this 5% of the time that he would say the thing that you're not supposed to say, right? That we're guilty of nefarious activities, that we just want the oil in Syria. He'd say these things. You weren't supposed to say that. He was curious about what our behavior in Ukraine during Obama's administration. He was looking into it. Those little moments make me think maybe they didn't have him by the balls. And you talk to people about this during this last election, and you say, they got him conditioned now. He's going to come back. We called it. We said he's going to come back in. He's going to be even harder. That 5% of the time is not going to exist anymore. It's going to be 100% representing the globalists, representing Israel first. We knew that was going to happen, but there's still people like, oh no, he figured out how to trick him. He figured it out now. He's going to be the guy that really gets it right. No, it's time to admit that he's been playing along the whole time. And January 6th seems like it seems like he was in on the whole time. And for him to push this narrative that we have to get justice for what happened in the 2020 election, and without any mention of any other election, it really is a telling tale that this is directly for his base to keep him being presented as some sort of guy going against the system, going against the grain, when he was in on it the whole time. I think you're absolutely right.
Well, what's really necessary for us to change is like, okay, same thing with COVID. Let's say, for instance, we don't concentrate on going back and get the culprits, right? Like, well, you can argue that if we don't get the people who did this and we don't hold them accountable, they'll just do it again. But if you safeguard the system moving forward and you actually change things moving forward with the whole system itself, elections, medicine, big pharma and all that, then you're really, paving a path forward for us to get out of this crap, right? In other words, if you're going to go back and try to persecute people and get them wrong for the 2020 election, that's a lot more work. And it's not as effective as saying, okay, what I'm going to do in my administration is I'm going to do two things, right? Now, he's trying to get like nationwide ID checks. He's trying to do that, but you can't do that because our Constitution is set up that states have the rights to do that. But you could probably make a ban for ballot harvesting and saying ballot harvesting is illegal, right? Like you could say it's unconstitutional and you can try to do that. You could try to limit the mail-in ballots. You can work on these things moving forward that would start to make our elections more transparent. You're not doing that. You're playing the classic, be mad at the leftists because it was the crazy leftists for stealing the election. And I literally heard people repeating that stuff. Well, Democrats been stealing elections. I'm like, no, Republicans stole elections too. In fact, I think that's what made the Democrats go, I'm not going to make things fair. I'm just going to cheat better than the Republicans. And that's what it feels like to me. Last comment that I'm going to play from him in Davos, just the narcissism, the puffery, the attitude. We live in a fucking cartoon. Donald Trump's talking about what he's going to do if we don't get the ice, which is Greenland.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember. So we want a piece of ice.
What does that mean when he says we'll remember? We could have kept it. I mean, this guy talks at a 6th grade level. I mean, maybe a 5th grade level. I mean, this is your president, ladies and gentlemen. That's how low the bar is set. You've been played. You've been hacked. You've been fooled. Get your head on straight. This is ridiculous. Matt Weinglass, get the last comments, and then let's get ready to share the Mark Sleboda interview we did the other day.
He presents like a sophomoric writer who got invited into a writer's room for the next Scorsese film, and he's like okay, we're gonna have to make a few edits here, but the guy wouldn't say that. We got to make it a little more little more, but we'll get you there. So, but they just let him loose right off the leash, say whatever he wants, and he does it. I think we have to give him credit for conviction. He certainly has conviction. He never apologizes, and we know as performers, right, that the thing you never want to do is apologize to your audience, right? So even if you say some just gibberish, that just doesn't make any sense, say it with conviction, and you might actually convince the people in the audience that you said something cool, and maybe it just went over their head. Yeah, that guy seems smart. He has confidence. That's good enough for me. And then it's a standing ovation. And that's the part we do have to give him credit for, Craig, because I think that's why they keep allowing him to do this. These run-on sentences that don't actually make any sense. But it's the presentation of the confidence, I think, that kind of outshines the fact that there's no substance. Yeah, how many more of these are we going to see? Probably this is not the last. But grab your popcorn, guys. We still have 3 more years of this.
And then this is Greenlanders mocking Americans by acting like fentanyl addicts.
Oh my God. That is pretty funny. That is funny.
Guys, we want to thank you for tuning in today for today's short show, but we do have another interview, so stay put. I asked Mark Sleboda a slew of questions, and you're going to want to hear his answers. I want to thank Matt Weinglass for coming on with me today, and Jayme CheeseSlice. We're going to play the interview. Remember, all the links down below to help out the show are listed there. Thank you so much, and that's it for the TruthWire. Truth out, or truth on to the next interview. See you soon. Okay, welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the TruthWire. I'm your host, Craig Pastor Jardula. Today, we're going to bring in one of our favorite guests, old school guest. You know him, you love him. He's always got so much to say on international affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Sleboda is here with us today. How you doing, Mark?
Pasta, thanks for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on the show, and I'm alive. How the hell are you?
It's been crazy, but I'm alive too. I guess we can count our blessings when it comes to that. Any day above ground, Mark. Let's get right to it, because I've been wanting to talk to you for weeks. There's so much stuff going on, and I'd like you to unpack. Let's start with our first question. Why are the people, you see online, they go along with this, we have conversations, there's interview. Why are the people so easily duped on thinking that Venezuela and Iran are the evil of all evils? Go ahead.
Do they?
Yeah.
Do they really, though? I mean, does anyone seriously believe that Venezuela was a narco-terrorist state? I mean, I don't know. I mean, first of all, I guess you have to separate, first out the people that don't even know what Venezuela is or where to find it on a map. I think we could, discount those.
That's the majority of Americans.
I understand that. I understand that. But the majority of Americans, you're well aware, don't matter in any type of political terms. You're well aware of that. But I think, we have to talk, shall we say the political class, meaning not just the political elite, but the group of people, the portion of the American population that is at least a degree politically informed and interested, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's a minority, an extreme minority of the U.S. population. Congratulations to all of you out there, because you're obviously part of it, but you're well aware of what a minority you are. I mean, raise your hand if you think that Venezuela was a narco-terrorist state. I don't believe that even, shall we say, the Miami Cuban crowd that was baying for leftist blood believes that nonsense, right?
Are you stating that you don't believe that the majority of Americans, especially the Trump people, I mean, obviously, you can make an argument that they are just looking for confirmation bias because they want a way to support their president. But I do honestly believe that the majority of the people here believe that he was a evil socialist dictator.
Okay. Well, so evil socialist, we can work with, right? Yeah. Because Trump is a right-wing figure, and most of his followers are right-wing figures, and they can easily be led to believing that anyone from the left, and I'm not talking the American liberals because they're not really left in any conceivable stretch of the form as far as I know. And
Agreed.
such as American Democrats opposed this, you and I both know that the only reason they opposed it is because there's a Republican president. Even the political, right? Even the elite in Congress, the only reason any of them voted against what was going on in Venezuela and the meaningless vote that was in Congress anyway is purely partisan. If Joe Biden, if shall we say Blinken and Sullivan and Joe Biden's brain dead corpse were the ones doing it, they would have fully supported it, because Venezuela is a geopolitical opponent of the United States because they sided with Russia and China. And that's really what it's about, right? Oil on one hand, yes, but even more importantly is geopolitical alignment. That is why Venezuela was targeted. That is not to be allowed in the Western Hemisphere in the new retrenchment, right, of hegemonic power in the U.S. national security strategy. Every president, when they comes in, right, is in the pursuit of U.S. hegemony and primacy, but they can prioritize different things in it. This administration has prioritized the Western Hemisphere, right, South and Central America, in a way that the last few presidencies have completely ignored it, and that is a change. But when you're buying off the mainstream Republican neocons and you bring Marco Rubio into your administration, that's how you buy him off to go along with whatever else you're doing, like annexing Greenland, by saying, okay, but I'll give you Venezuela and Cuba, and you just go along with the rest, right? And that does the job. But I honestly don't believe that anyone believes, some of the more, the extreme, like the narco terrorist nonsense, right? The drug flow from Venezuela to the US is among the very lowest in all of South and Central America, right? I mean, and certainly the Venezuelan government. I mean, all the evidence, all the actual, research into drug flows. What drug flows do come from Venezuela, and they're a minority compared to anything like Colombia and Mexico and anything. Not that their governments had anything to do with it. It actually goes to Europe. What comes from Venezuela actually goes majority Europe. So that's just complete nonsense. And anyone who parrots that, I don't believe that anyone is stupid enough to believe that. Even the people in the administration, they're just mouthing it, right, as the pretext justification, like was used against Noriega in the 90s, right? It's the accepted thing. And it's simply a matter of, you can't say that the emperor doesn't have clothes. I mean, you can't say it, right? Even the Western mainstream media, even as they clearly write that it's quite obvious the way they write that they don't pay any credence to the narco terrorist thing, but they clearly support what was happening on geopolitical terms, right? To take out a leftist opponent of the U.S. It's not even most important that it was leftist. It is that it was geopolitically aligned with Russia and China and Iran and Cuba, of course. That's why the entirety of the U.S. political elite. And rather than asking why are the people so easily duped on Venezuela and Iran has been built up over decades as one of the arch enemies ever since the Islamic Revolution, right? In response, of course, to the U.S. installation of the Shah, the pro-American dictator of Iran. Since the embassy events and everything, I mean, Iran has just been built up as as it, it's spoon fed into American children on birth. But I think a better question is, why are the people so easily duped on Donald Trump or the next Democratic president or the next Republican president after that? Why are Americans so easily duped to believe that they can go to a ballot box and choose among Coke or Pepsi, and suddenly the U.S. is going to be a good country, right? To believe that democracy, quote unquote, in the U.S. can result in such a radical change in U.S. political leadership and foreign policy, right? The deep state, the blob, whatever you want to call it, that the U.S. would suddenly become a country that would give up the pursuit of global hegemony and primacy and seek a constructive place in a multipolar world order. Why does anyone believe that? I mean, why did anyone?
I think there's an answer coming. I got a feeling and stuff, because here's what I would say. Is it all about team sports?
Yeah,
Is it
sure.
All right. Yeah, please elaborate on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, people want to believe that they don't live in an evil country. I mean, they want to believe that through the simple act of voting that they can get something good out of it. And yes, the partisan nature, right? The inherent of that guy is a bastard, and if we get our bastard in there, everything, well, I mean, it won't be perfect, but it'll be better. No, it won't be better. I mean, it's just going to be worse and worse and worse, back and forth. There were people who genuinely believed that Trump was going to result in some type of positive change in U.S. foreign policy. I know there's a lot of people that out there believe. There's a lot of
people in our network and around that were close to us that thought, once again, just like we believed and we got duped in believing that Barack Obama was an outsider, that Donald Trump was also an outsider taking on the deep state. Please elaborate.
Yeah, and a lot of people did. A lot of people in the alt media community did, right?
Yeah.
An awful lot of people that I know well. And people did to varying degrees as well. I mean, some people still had a moment of hesitation. But there are some people out there, and hi, Brian Berletic out there, my bro, I mean, he's another clear-minded, I don't even know if he's a cynic. He is just absolutely consumed with fear and hatred of the country he was born in, which I think is completely justified. But me, it more comes from my cynicism, I think, rather than any particular deep-seated cynicism and realism of the situation.
It's a culmination of things at this point for us, why we kind of are a little bit hesitant to believe that you can just vote for the other guy to get them in and think it's going to change.
But it's the easy thing, right? I mean, you want to believe in American democracy because you were taught about it all your birth. The thing is, you just keep electing the wrong people. And if you can just get the right people, if you could get Bernie Sanders, or if you can get Mamdani or Vance, or someone in there, right? They would do the right thing. Right. And it's an illusion, right? It's the classic Peanuts strip, right? Lucy's got the football, right?
Yeah.
And Charlie Brown, the voter, right? The politically interested American out there, no matter what, he's gonna know it's a trick. He's gonna be suspicious. And at the end of the day, Lucy's gonna smile, and he's gonna run and try to kick that ball, and she's gonna pull it out from him, and he's gonna land up, with his rear, in the turf as the U.S. goes to regime change in other countries.
Yeah. Well, the way the system is supposed to work, everybody talks about just the voting part of it. The big component, I think, that we talk about it in our space is the mainstream media, right? What the fourth estate, as Fiorello would say, the fourth estate, what it's meant to be. They're supposed to hold the government accountable.
No.
mainstream
That
media-
is not what they're supposed to do.
Okay, what are they
That
supposed
is-
to do? Please.
They're
Shut up.
supposed to do exactly what they do. There are political actors that are to sell the business of hegemony and
But
primacy.
the
to the
marketing, right? The marketing says
marketing,
elsewise.
I'm talking what they're really there for.
I
you
know,
what
I know.
they're really supposed to do and have always done.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, it was the Mockingbird
I'm
media.
not talking the utopian kumbaya
Right.
fantasy of what all of these,
It did seem at times there was runaway truth tellers that were eventually pushed out and thrown aside and bastardized. But there was a time maybe where we would have some voices out there. I know everybody is so big, and the reason why I put this in there is because, of course, I don't believe the mainstream media is useful at all. But there's a lot of people going, "Oh my God, Candace Owens is saying X, Y, and Z. Oh my God, Tucker Carlson saying this and that. He's got the courage to speak the truth." It seems like he says some stuff that might be truthful, stuff we said years ago, and now he's just saying it now, and it seems more like narrative management to me. But there is this phenomenon going on right now.
Carlson, I think he's been kicked out of the mainstream media, and he finds himself almost in an alt media place. that's where he is. But I mean, ultimately, I think to be an American with a reflective sense and understanding of what America really is and its place in the world, it's very, very hard to achieve that unless you've been an expat or a resident in another country, or like me, just immigrated to another country and give up on the whole damn thing completely. It's hard to get out. The propaganda bubble is so intense. The indoctrination is so intense. The belief in U.S. exceptionalism, the shining city on the hill. Yeah, maybe it's not perfect, blah, 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 but, better than anywhere else. Until you get outside of that completely, very few people, I think, have the strength of will and intellect to escape it on their own. I'm not, maybe some of the viewing audience out there are among them, but to be perfectly honest, I don't think that I had it until I was outside of the US for a considerable length of time. And only was it then the very last of the delusions that I held, about American politics, democracy, about its place in the world. Only then did I shed those last delusions.
I don't know. I live here right now, and I'm pretty deluded. But I can tell you this much: when people tell me, "Well, if you don't love this country, why don't you get out of here?" I tell them, "Ashbet, give me some time. Once my responsibilities are taken care of, John, I'm out of here." Let's get to the biggest question, which is the biggest concern, right? I would like to know from Mark Sleboda. We have, Iran on the menu. We have Gaza still going on, gentrification, a genocide happening on a regular basis, colonization. We have Venezuela, which we can talk a little bit about too as well and get into there. There's still the Ukraine war that's happening that Donald Trump said it was going to end in 24 hours. What to you is your biggest concern and why?
Okay, well, ultimately, the conflict in Ukraine is the most important, right? Because in geopolitical terms, at the end game of this conflict, it is almost certain to be a world order changing conflict, right? It is going to be such a body blow to US-led Western global hegemony that the rules of the game are going to change in the aftermath of it. Assuming that everything stays on course as it is now, because they invested so much political capital in saying that NATO has to win in Ukraine and everything, that they believe that US-led Western global hegemony is on the line. They can talk about domino theories. If Russia wins in Ukraine, then China will attempt to reassert control over its own island province of Taiwan. Who are handed weapons to, anyway.
They're going to take back their own shit. That's what's
ultimately,
yeah.
Hegemony is, I mean, there's a physical hardware, aspect to it, but in many sense, it is also a narrative construction. And part of that narrative construction is belief and fear. And if someone challenges the hegemon and wins, then that belief and fear is shattered. And, it becomes much harder to do that. That's why you go to the Sahel in Africa. And over the last couple of years, you've seen all kinds of what are essentially, there's domestic issues and everything, but a lot of anti-colonial protests among Africans in the Sahel and elsewhere in Africa. It's not even just the Sahel. And they want the French gone. They want the Americans gone, right? And they want local leaders who are supportive of those policies gone. And they're flying the Russian flag. Why is that? Is it because Russia is supporting, the overthrow of French-supported governments? No, not really. That's actually just a something that comes after the fact, that Russia then comes in as a alternate security provider. It's because Russia provides a symbol of resistance to the hegemon, to the West, the collective West, if you want. And that is a byproduct, a global byproduct of the conflict in Ukraine, right? And it has other effects, just other than a type of challenge to dominant narratives about hegemony. It also has effect on the dollar as a reserve currency. The dollar is down to its lowest level in the last 20 years. They've lost 18 points as a reserve value of worth in the last decade, and most of that in the last few years. And that's a byproduct of what other states saw when the U.S. weaponized the dollar, the entirety of their control of the global financial architecture, SWIFT, and everything to geopolitically punish Russia. And first of all, it didn't succeed, and in many ways, Russia's economy has only strengthened as a result. But more than that, all the other states out there realize what can be done to Russia could also be done to us, and that is another big game, world order changing consequence. There are so many of them that spin off of the conflict in Ukraine. And if you want to talk
real quick and play devil's advocate, because I want to stay right here for a second on this thought, because when you look at what happened in Russia, Ukraine, right, you would say that is a blow to the United States hegemony. But there are certain things that the United States, Israel has still gotten from this whole situation. We can look at Syria, right? Bashar al-Assad definitely was supported by the Russian government. He is gone. They have a head chopper now taking over.
Yep.
It seems to me there's a play that was made in Venezuela. My question to you is this, and could this be an Achilles heel? Because, obviously the information I get from Russia, Ukraine, I pay close attention to what you say, Rachel Blevins, Fiorella, Isabel, Vanessa Beeley. It does seem that Russia wants to still do business with the U.S., and that could be an Achilles heel. I have heard stuff, and maybe this is bad information, that there are military aspects in Russia that are just fed up with what the Russian Federation is doing. They don't want the Dmitry Krivili guys making calling the shots and still trying to find a way. When you got Dmitry and Witkoff sitting down talking together, I mean, is this an Achilles heel? Does Russia still want to do business with the U.S., and is that stopping them from really just ending this whole conflict and moving on with the BRICS nations?
Okay, so that last part about military, that's nonsense, right? That's actually, I believe, people in the alt media who don't really understand Russia or what's happening in Ukraine or geopolitics, and projecting their own wish for Russia to get this over with faster onto Russia.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with that. I don't see.
You really think that's you really think that's complete kaputs? I mean, when you look at what happened in Belgrade, the reason why Boris Yeltsin was removed, right? I believe a lot of hardliners and military men wanted Putin to get in there because Yeltsin was just such a fall down drunk and allowed the United States to step all over them. You're telling me there's no faction in Russia that's like, we're done trying to deal with the U.S. Why should we do it? They're always going to try and balkanize. Let's move on.
Okay, there are people who feel that way, but not to any type of extent where they challenge or disagree with the current government. That's the right. There might be a reflexive thing, but ultimately there is a trust in the power vertical in Russia, and that Putin, it really, does play a level above everyone else. I got to be honest with that. And first of all, Putin was not put in by Russian hardliners. Putin was put in by Boris Yeltsin and the mafia family behind him, because they thought they would carry on with what he would be a loyal to the awful legacy of Boris Yeltsin and help the Russian oligarchs continue to loot the country in cooperation with U.S. companies. He just
Did that backfire on them?
Backfired a little bit on them.
Okay. That's interesting because people have different opinions. I'm glad that you're bringing this to the table because I've heard different stories, but thank you for clarifying. This is why I have you on the show, Mark.
Putin, right? As the Soviet Union dissolved, he was part of a circle around a prominent Western reformer who was the mayor of St. Petersburg, Anatoly Sobchak, who was tangential to the Boris Yeltsin, the family, right? The group of oligarchs, including Boris Berezovsky and others that, were like vampires fastening on the corpse of Russia, in a circle around Yeltsin. So they put Putin because they thought that he would, despite being from a background of intelligence services, that his political loyalties to the Sobchak clan would guarantee that he would continue the Yeltsin legacy. They were just terribly, terribly wrong about him.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest to you, Russia, they got lucky with who and what Putin turned out to be. And there are Russians. I myself am not a religious person, but there are Russians who really believe that Putin was led to this position by God seeking to, by some Orthodox God, miracle seeking to redeem Russia. There are people who I don't, but I still think they got lucky. But I'm more interested in his foreign policy and his realism and his pragmatism. Look, Russia does not, the Kremlin does not want to do business with the U.S., to crawl back into bed. But that doesn't mean that they won't, because the Kremlin is ultimately pragmatic, realist. They understand that they live in this world, not in a world that they wish that they might live in, where the U.S. is not there and is not still, one of, if not the most dominant power on the earth, even if a fading hegemon. Russia understands that. They have a more cold-blooded, realist, realpolitik view of the world than either you or I do. And a lot of the people out there watching, right? We have a belief, a near ideological aspiration in a multipolar world, right? As what we want instead of a unipolar world of US-led Western global hegemony. But understand this: the governments of Russia and China and Iran do not, on a personal level, or on a policy level, first and foremost, subscribe to a multipolar world ideology. They're primarily focused on their state's national interests. And if their state's national interests is a multipolar world order, okay, well, then that follows from that. But their state's national interests. And that's the way it has to be, because we live in a realist world, right? So the Russia might have nothing but hatred and contempt and despise the US. And at the same time, they realize they can't just live in a world where the US isn't there, right? So they will have to deal with them on some terms at the end of this conflict.
Yeah.
And same thing with Europe, except Europe is even I mean, while not as powerful as the United States as a geopolitical actor, or you know, in many other terms, the Europeans, they have to deal with them too, because they're here, right? They're right on Russia's western border. They have to deal with it.
Yeah.
The West
So
doesn't
doesn't mean a complete separation. BRICS is more of an alternative, but
Yes.
it gives them leverage to go back and do business with the other people
Yes.
in the sandbox we got to play with.
Yeah, and they're seeking alternative structures because they're denied a fair shake in the structures that the U.S. set. That doesn't mean that the primary goal of those structures is to destroy the other system, because it's not, because a lot of countries don't have that. Brazil and India don't subscribe to that, right? A lot of other the UAE is part of BRICS, right? BRICS Plus now, and it hosts the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, don't. Also, a lot of people have very, I want to say, personally projectionist ideas about what BRICS is and isn't. BRICS is not of its own accord an anti-US led Western global hegemony alliance. It's not, first of all, it's not an alliance. It's extremely informal. Yes, it does have the possibility. It is a nascent alternate economic financial architecture, right, that is slowly being constructed. But you know, these things don't just happen overnight. But most of the countries in BRICS do not see themselves or want to be in conflict with the West. Now, the West may not see things the same way. Right? They view anyone who's not firmly in line, aligned with them 100%, anyone with an independent foreign policy as a threat. And they certainly see BRICS as a threat. But just so you understand, a lot of the countries in BRICS do not want to be in that position, right? That India and Brazil foremost among them. But, UAE, Egypt is another BRICS country that is has been one of the top recipients of U.S. military aid every year going back decades.
Yeah.
So people need to be very realistic about what BRICS is, about the foreign policies of Russia and China and Iran and so forth.
Yeah. So basically, Ukraine is the biggest situation because it is going to have so much to reshape the globe as far as geopolitical wants and needs moving forward.
Tectonic shift. Yeah.
So my next question is then, what's next for Iran?
Iran's in a really bad place, right? So there's been 2 regime change attempts already in the last year. And there may be a third one just down the road, right? Because this one may just be put on pause until the U.S. gets more strike assets. They're moving the Abraham Lincoln carrier group from the Pacific now, right? And we're hearing different things from Trump, from Netanyahu, from media sources about why it was called off, But ultimately, the real reason it was called off is the U.S. has an Achilles heel right now. And that Achilles heel is air defense, right? First of all, the U.S. air defense systems are kind of shit. The Patriot, the THAAD system, they're really fairly old, and they're not built to task. Same thing, everyone talks about Israel's Iron Dome. Well, first of all, Iron Dome has nothing to do with Iran. Iron Dome is a local. It's designed to stop homemade rockets fired from Gaza, stuff and Lebanon.
Not the hypersonic missiles that Iran has.
Yeah, it could be used against drones, right? That it could have some use against drones, that kind of things. But we're talking David's sling, or as I like to call it, David's boomerang, because its missiles have a tendency to come back and hit on their own launchers, as we saw. But not very good, actually. Russia's air defense and electronic warfare, integrated, interconnected, multi-layered. That's the gold standard. We see that every night as Russian air defense and electronic warfare stop Kiev regime, NATO, drone attacks, missile attacks on a nightly basis. But the U.S. they've focused throughout the Cold War and since on power projection, on aircraft carriers, on Tomahawks, on strike aircraft, stealth bomber, so on. Russia, the Soviet Union, and then Russia, the avenue they decided to focus on, right, as a counter to perceived NATO advantages, they focused defensively on air defense and electronic warfare, which is why they have such superior in those systems now. The U.S. for some reason, they never thought they would seriously need air defense. And so, first of all, their systems aren't that great. But more importantly, they cannot produce enough interceptor missiles. And they have been completely unable to ramp up the production of those. You heard
to protect who? Israel, you're talking about?
Israel, U.S. military bases, anything. Okay.
All right,
right?
Cool.
Yeah. It's not a problem when you're taking the low-hanging fruit and going after a country like Venezuela that doesn't have any strike capability. But for Iran, for Russia, for China, right, you need to be able to defend yourself, your allies, and your assets. The U.S. we've seen it trumpeted on the pages of the New York Times, the Washington Post. They have a critical shortage of air defense interceptors, particularly the Patriot, the PAC-3 interceptor, but other interceptors as well, including the THAAD. I think they make like 12 of those things a year. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Raytheon, you heard Trump screaming in social media posts against the U.S. military-industrial complex and Raytheon in particular last week. And a lot of what is all that about? That is about the lack of they can't ramp up production of air defense interceptor missiles. And without that, the U.S. can't do anything. They can't do serious regime change operations against Iran. That's why they called the last one off in June. That's why Israel, it turned in the regime change with the decapitation strikes and everything. It failed to immediately overthrow the Iranian government. Yeah. Iran began to hit back with their own missiles and long-range drones, right? Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, a long-range strike capability that they never had before. Now they have it in a serious way. And it started to turn into a long-range strike war of attrition. And it was tilting heavily in Iran's favor. Why? Because missiles are a lot easier and a lot cheaper to produce than air defense missiles, right? It's a simple fact. So the U.S. came in, dropped some bombs, declared victory, and asked for a ceasefire, right? That's what it is. But the ultimate reason is they were exhausted. They were already their air defense capabilities of the U.S. All of the U.S. aligned countries were there attempting to knock down Iranian missiles and drones, and they were exhausted. They didn't have them because the U.S. has spent so many of them. So the Saudis spent so many Patriot interceptors in their years-long attempt to conquer Yemen, which they gave up on smartly. And the U.S. was already running short of interceptors even before the conflict in Ukraine break out. Then they transferred so many systems and so many interceptors for those systems to Ukraine. And Marco Rubio himself admitted just over a month ago that the problem is they hand a Patriot system to, $1 billion Patriot system, right, for a battery to Ukraine, and a week later, Russia's destroyed it. So big shortage there. And then again, Trump followed Biden and Blinken Sullivan and went after the Houthis again, wasting more air defense interceptors, right, in the Red Sea. And then this 12-day war with Iran. The U.S. is just tapped out, right? It's been on the front pages. The Trump administration asks the Pentagon to double or quadruple production of all these critical missiles. We can't give any more, right? The U.S. has to provide not only for its own military needs, right? Not only for all of its allies that use the Patriot, and there are dozens of countries that use the Patriot, but also the conflict in Ukraine, where Russia is firing up to 700-800 missiles and drones every single night, right? There's no way they can keep up with that. And then Israel, right, on top of it, particularly with Iran. It's a huge shortage. Raytheon they had hoped to ramp up production of PAC-3 interceptors to 600 a year for everything. 600. And the U.S. is screaming, make more. And they're like, oh, we would love to. That's great business, right? The only problem is we need tens of billions of dollars of investment to build new factories, to educate and train a new workforce that can do this, to build downstream supply chains of all these type of components. Oh, did we mention we need rare earths for that and all of this stuff that the Chinese have a chokehold on us now? All of this stuff. And that's why Trump is screaming at Raytheon. It limits what the U.S. can do with countries like Iran and Russia and China because they can't defend themselves and their allies. So once again, they hoped for a quick regime change with this color revolution, CIA, Mossad insurrection on the ground, and that didn't work out. And then they're like, all right, well, let's bomb them. Okay, but you understand they're going to bomb us and Israel back, right? And we can't really stop that. And then Trump,
So where are they at now? I mean, I know that it was kind of like I heard a lot of generals, a lot of ex-military said it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when.
I don't know that.
Yeah, I
don't know that because if it's just a matter of getting more strike assets in the region, okay, but that doesn't solve the problem of air defense.
Yeah,
that's still the Achilles heel. Again, they're still left in a position where they've got to take out the Iranian government then within a few days.
Yeah.
If they can't do it within a few days, they're already back in the same situation
so
again.
Why would Iran take a step back? Why wouldn't they just complete and finish the deal if they understand that Israel, with United States big brother, can't defend itself? Why not just put this baby to bed so that you get rid of your biggest enemy of all times?
Okay, so first of all, do they have the ability to destroy Israel? No, they don't. They don't have that much ability. They have enough ability to damage them. Right? Can they wipe Israel off the map? First of all, no. Israel has nuclear weapons. Right?
Okay.
If it got bad enough, Israel would fire nukes at Iran. Right?
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. They can't destroy Israel. They don't have that capability. They can strike and hit back and do damage as a deterrent. Right? That's its primary use. Iran has never once fired a missile at Israel because of what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people. Understand?
Got it. Yeah, it's big. Yeah.
It's a national interest thing. On a second level, Pezeshkian, he's the worst possible president Iran could have right now.
Why?
Pezeshkian, because from the very beginning, when he got into office, his whole thing is he wanted to accommodate and appease the West.
Yeah.
He wanted to work out a modus vivendi with the West. And he still obviously does to some degree, despite everything. Right. Yes. One of the reasons, many reasons, right? Iran has a very prickly independence and foreign policy streak, and you can make arguments about why, things that have happened in the past historically between Russia and China and Iran. But ultimately, Pezeshkian, as the president, did not want to get too close to Russia and China because he believed that would limit his ability to restore relations with the West, which is what he wanted.
Got it. Understood. I got one last question before we get you out of here, because I just need to talk about this. Bigger concern, Mark. Somalia fraud in Minnesota, or the Somalia bombing 130 times last year, by the way. Can you give us your little final thoughts on that before we get you out of here?
Yeah, I have nothing to say about U.S. domestic politics. I could care less, and good luck with that. As for Somalia bombing, well, let's just take a look at how many countries Trump has bombed the peace president, right? I mean,
yes,
he's Somalia, he's bombed Nigeria, he's bombed Yemen, he's bombed Iran, he's bombed Venezuela, he's bombed Russia. Let's be honest about that. He has bombed Russia. This is certainly if it's the CIA, it counts, right?
Yeah.
Foreign policy. Ultimately, the U.S. president's powers are not, but constitutionally, at least, are not about U.S. domestic politics. They're about foreign policy, right? That is where the executive office's powers are. Right, Congress controls the purse strings. Right, the Supreme Court, adjudicates laws. The U.S. president, the executive office, is first and primordial about foreign policy. But Americans can always and continually vote for their president based on this partisan team nonsense, and which is primarily focused on U.S. domestic policy. Right.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental flaw in the entire U.S. political process, that misunderstanding there. But again, most Americans don't care about foreign policy. Whatever they want to do, they don't care. It doesn't affect them, or not in a way that they understand, and so forth. Americans do not vote on foreign policy, right? Even Trump voters did not. Yes, there's a minority of MAGA first people out there, an extreme minority, and some of them are probably watching the show, right? But you're a minority, right? Trump is bombing this country, regime changing that country, and most of his supporters are still firmly behind him, MAGA or not, right? That's the truth. It was always the truth. And I think a lot of people in the alt media projected themselves onto the MAGA movement as having some type of foreign policy leverage over Trump, and more fools you.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on. We're out of time. It's been 45 minutes. Where can everybody find you? You got anything new going on? And there's so many things I want to talk about. I wanted to talk to you still about Venezuela, but maybe you have a video or two out there. People can get caught up on your thoughts.
You can find plenty. All right, so the place to follow me is Boosty, and you can see right there on the screen the Real Politic with Mark Sleboda at Boosty. So I'm a Russian citizen living in Russia, which means I'm under U.S. and Western sanctions, which means that YouTube, Substack, Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, none of that stuff works for me, right? But Boosty is a Patreon clone, essentially, that is sanctions proof, right? It works for me. So that's where I've set up shop. I put all of my stuff there, and anyone can, just subscribe there. That's free, and you'll get all of my debates. I'll put the stuff I do with you there, with Garland, with Jamal, everything, all the regular debates on Crosstalk and everything I do there. But I also put out a lot of exclusive content every week, and I'm talking like 5 or 6 hours of exclusive content every week. I do an in focus video, a question and answer where I answer your questions directly, and a very long week in review. And you get access to all of that, and the private Discord channel where we can talk and interact, you and other like-minded people, without all the spams and bots and trolls and whatever else. So if you want to support me, then you can get access to all of that there. But, come, even without, maybe you're not in a place to help or whatever, that's fine. But you can still follow me on Boosty and get all of my regular stuff like this there for free as well. And then maybe somewhere down the road, you are enough of a sadomasochist that you want to suffer more of my cynicism and fatalism on a regular basis.
Mark, I do appreciate you staying busy. First of all, that's awesome. And I do appreciate you coming on the show. Maybe we'll catch up with you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate it. Guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. All the links down below to help out the show are there in the description. I am Craig Pasta Jardula. Thank you for watching the Truth Wire. We'll see you in a little bit.